So we were discussing that how fructose 1,6-bisphosphate has been converted into dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, right? Now we will understand how this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted into pyruvate. Now listen with all your attention. Now this is the structure of your glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, right? This is the structure of your glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Now a very important point here is this, that now we will be talking about how this glyceraldehyde is converted into this. How this glyceraldehyde through multiple pathways is converted into this. Okay. This is what? This is what? This is pyruvate. Now pyruvate is a keto acid. Okay. Keto acid. Why it is called keto acid? Because the ketone group here or the keto group here is actually the secondary functional group. Secondary functional group. And this is the primary functional group. That is, the acid is the carboxylic acid is the primary functional group. Okay. Now, so let's start the conversion of this beautiful molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate into pyruvate, not a nasty molecule. Okay. Now, a very important point is this, that glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted first into a very important compound known by the name of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Okay, it's converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate or 1,3-BPG. Okay. Now, a very important point here you need to understand is this, that this reaction is actually reversible in nature. Okay. Now, a very important point is this, that this reaction is actually a double reaction. Why? Because in this reaction, to this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, in the first carbon, a phosphate has been applied. A phosphate group has been applied here in the first carbon, therefore 1,3-bisphospho. But it is why it is a double reaction, because this is what? This is your what? This is your glyceraldehyde. This is a glyceraldehyde. Now, what is this? What is this? This is glyceric acid. This is your glyceric acid. Now, if I remove this becomes your glycerate. This end, whenever anything ends with 8 in chemistry, it is nothing but what? Ion, right? Now, this is glycerate. Now, a very important point you need to understand is this. What do you mean by then 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate? 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate means to this there is one phosphate, one, and to this also there is one phosphate. So therefore, this is called 1,3. Do you think the phosphates are attached to the same carbon or same oxygen? No. That's why bisphosphoglycerate. Now, attention. What you are thinking right now is this, that as an extra phosphate has been added in the third carbon, right? As an extra phosphate has been added in the third carbon position, therefore ATP should be converted, right? ATP should be converted into ADP, right? But here this is not the case. Probably it is one of those few reaction step, or probably it is one of those few biochemical reactions in which ATP is not the source of phosphate. Now listen with all your attention. Then what is the source of this phosphate? The source of this phosphate is, what? The source of this phosphate is inorganic phosphate. nothing else. Clear? Inorganic phosphate, or which is also called PI. Okay, inorganic phosphate. Now important point here we need to understand is this. Now this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is very important, you know, is very important. Now what is the name of that enzyme which is actually converting this bisphosphoglycerate, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate? What is the name of this enzyme? Yes. What is the name of this enzyme which converts, you know, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate? It is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. Okay, it is known by the name of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. Okay, it is known by the name of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. Okay, now a very important point here we need to understand is this. I am again drawing the structure of, you know, bisphosphoglycerate. Okay, so this is what? This is the structure of bisphosphoglycerate. Okay, this is the structure, this is the, you know, phosphate, position of phosphate, right? Now a very important point here is this. If I draw the structure of the molecule from which this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate has come, 1,3-BPG has come, if I draw the structure of the molecule from which 1,3-BPG has come, that is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, what will be your, you know, answer? Now listen, suppose this is the structure of 3-phosphoglycerate, okay, or glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Now a very important point, now listen, this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase actually has helped in the introduction of inorganic phosphate in this particular carbon number 1, right? This is carbon number 1, this is 2, this is 3. Now a very important point here we need to understand right now is this, that to, you know, to introduce this phosphate here, this hydrogen should be removed first, right? This hydrogen should be removed first. Now a very important point here is this. Now this hydrogen will actually come out. This hydrogen will actually come out, and this hydrogen will be taken by NAD plus, okay, and it will be converted into NADH. Okay, this hydrogen therefore will be taken up by NAD plus, and this NAD plus will be converted into NADH. Okay, this NAD plus will be converted into NADH, that is reduced nicotinamide, you know, adenine dinucleotide. Okay, now a very important point here is this, that means for taking up this hydrogen you need a reducing equivalent, but in this case the reducing equivalent is NAD plus, not NADP plus. Okay, clear? Am I clear to everyone? Okay, so now a very important point is this, that means to convert this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate we need two things. First, this hydrogen should be removed, first this hydrogen should be kicked out, and second, an inorganic phosphate or PI should be placed here, right? So these are the two, you know, functions of this enzyme, that is intro of inorganic phosphate and removal of hydrogen. Clear? These are the two main functions of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. Now before we jump into, you know, how 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is converted into 3-phosphoglycerate, we must understand that you know, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, you know, this is glyceraldehyde, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, okay. This glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate has been converted into 1,3-bis phosphoglycerate, right? Now, a very important point here is this, that the enzyme required for this conversion is called glyceraldehyde 3 glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, okay, clear? Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, clear? Now, a very important point we need to understand is this: glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase is very, very important with respect to one thing, that is, you know, with respect to arsenic, you know, arsenic. Now listen, arsenic actually have two forms which are found in our body, okay, human body. That is, number one is arsenite, which is having valency of +3, and arsenate, which is having the valency of +5. Now listen with all your attention. This arsenate molecule actually inhibits glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. This arsenate, this not this +3 one, this +5 valency, that is arsenate actually, you know, inhibits glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. Clear? Now, what it actually does, now listen with all your attention. You know, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, we have already shown, does actually two things, right? Why do you think I was writing that? Because it is important here. It was actually incorporating the inorganic phosphate, and you people will tell me, and it was, you know, extracting hydrogen, right? Now, a very important point we need to understand right now is this, that this arsenate actually competes with this, you know, inorganic phosphate. Due to this competition, what happens is really, really interesting. You know what happens? Now listen, this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, due to this competition of arsenate, this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is directly converted into, you know what? Is directly converted into something called 3-phosphoglycerate. And you know what is the, you know, actually, you know, disadvantage of this particular thing which is happening here, that this is actually not forming any intermediate, that is 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is not formed when glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase is actually, you know, inhibited by this arsenate, because arsenate is actually, you know, competing with what? Inorganic phosphate. The most important thing we need to understand is this, that listen, naturally 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate will have to become what? 3-phosphoglycerate, but when glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is directly converted into, you know, 3-phosphoglycerate, that is, it is directly oxidized. This is oxidized, okay? This is what? Oxidized. Now when this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, this is aldehyde, this is acid, when this glyceraldehyde is directly oxidized into 3-phosphoglycerate, then what happens is this, when this step was occurring naturally, that is from 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate to 3-phosphoglycerate, there is one formation of ATP. Now listen, when arsenate is present in your body, then this ATP will not be produced. This ATP will not be produced. This is the importance of arsenate. Clear? This is how arsenate, or, you know, arsenic actually inhibits your metabolism. Clear? Arsenate works here in glycolysis. Clear? Role of arsenic in glycolysis is this. Now listen, arsenite never works in glycolysis, never inhibits any step of glycolysis. Arsenate, you know, have inhibitory effect on glycolysis. arsenite actually, you know, have inhibitory effects on ETS, electron transport system. Okay, 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate okay, this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate now listen, this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate has actually, you know, suppose there are, you know, 20 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate molecules, suppose. Now listen, out of this 20, 15 actually will follow the main pathway, that is the glycolytic pathway, but there are 5 molecules which will follow a different path, You know what is a different path? Now listen with all your attention. This 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, now listen, out of this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, 15 will follow its, you know, original path. Clear? I will be talking about this original path, but let me talk about this pathway because it is more important in RBCs, where the source of ATP is actually glycolysis only. Okay. Now listen. Now 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate actually, to some, you know, lesser extent, is converted into, you know, 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate or 2,3-BPG. Clear? And the enzyme required here is called phosphoglyceromutase. That means, mutase means what? The position of the phosphate has only been changed. Okay, but this compound 2,3-BPG is actually very, very important for your RBCs. Why, you know? Because what happens is, whenever this 2,3-BPG is formed in the RBCs, what happens is this RBCs actually cross-links your beta chains of your beta 1 and beta 2 chains of your what? Hemoglobin, and therefore oxygen is released fast. Therefore, the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve, which you have already read, actually shifts towards the left. Clear? Actually shifts towards the left. That means what? More and more oxygen is released at a lesser time. Clear? Therefore, oxygen release by hemoglobin is increased. Therefore, this actually helps in getting adequate amount of oxygen to different kinds of tissues of your body. Clear? Am I clear to everyone? Clear? So this is the, you know, source of this molecule. We have read about this 2,3-BPG when we were talking about, you know, oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. Okay. Now, this oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve again is converted and is bring back to its normal, you know, form. Now listen. Now what is its normal form? Now listen. 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is actually now converted into what? 3-phosphoglycerate. Okay. Now, so from here one phosphate will go out. Welcome. You have got one ATP. Okay. Sorry. You have got one energy rich ATP. Clear? So this is the source of your 1 ATP. Okay. Now, what is the name of this enzyme which acts here in this pathway? Okay. What is the name of this enzyme which acts here? The name of this enzyme is phosphatase. Phosphatase. You know, phosphatases are enzymes which remove phosphates. Phosphatases are enzymes which removes phosphate, right? Now, a very, very important point here you need to understand is this, that which enzyme is actually acting here, right? To convert this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate into 3-phosphoglycerate, right? What is the name of this enzyme? We should understand now. Name of this enzyme is phosphoglycerate kinase, okay? Phosphoglycerate kinase. Clear? Okay. Now this 3-phosphoglycerate actually, which looks like this, okay? 3-phosphoglycerate which looks like this, okay? It is 3-phospho, therefore it will look like this. Okay. So here we have got the first of our ATPs, okay? Now a very important point is this. This is 3-phosphoglycerate. Now listen. By the help of an enzyme, this phosphate changes its position from 3-phosphate, from the 3rd position to the 2nd position, okay? From third position to the 2nd position. Now listen, therefore this 3-phosphoglycerate is, again it's a reversible step, that means it is not a what? You know, rate limiting step. No. This 3-phosphoglycerate is converted into 2-phosphoglycerate, okay? Now 2-phosphoglycerate will look like this, okay? 2-phosphoglycerate will look like this. Okay, 2-phosphoglycerate will look like this. Now a very important part here we need to understand is this, that this, you know, change or this, you know, conversion of 2-phosphoglycerate to sorry 3-phosphoglycerate to 2-phosphoglycerate has been done by an enzyme which is known by the name of phosphoglyceromutase, okay? Phosphoglyceromutase. Clear? Phosphoglyceromutase. Okay. Now we will be talking about how this 2-phosphoglycerate is converted into phosphoenol pyruvate and then to pyruvate. Okay. Now we will be talking about the conversion of 2-phosphoglycerate into phosphoenol pyruvate. Okay. We will now be talking about conversion of 2-phosphoglycerate into phosphoenol pyruvate. Needless to say that this is a reversible process or reversible reaction, because this is not a rate limiting step. Now a very important point here we need to understand is this, that before we start with everything else, we will have to first know that suppose this is our, this is our 2-phosphoglycerate, okay? This is our 2-phosphoglycerate. Okay, this is our 2-phosphoglycerate. Now, first things first, that is, if this is our 2-phosphoglycerate, okay, then the most important thing you need to understand right now is this, that this 2-phosphoglycerate should be converted into, what? Should be converted into phosphoenol pyruvate, and in order to do this, what you will have to understand is this, that there is an alpha beta elimination occurring here, okay, alpha beta elimination occurring here. Now, if you don't know what is alpha beta elimination, it's very simple, the carbon which is just next to the primary functional group carbon is called alpha carbon, and the carbon which is next to the alpha carbon is called beta carbon, okay. Now, from this alpha beta carbons, elimination reaction will occur. Now, elimination of what, right? Your first question should be elimination of what, right? Now listen, suppose this is your, suppose this is your, phosphoenol pyruvate. Now listen, this is your phosphate, and this is your, hydrogen, okay. Now, a very important point you need to understand is this, that this water molecule will now be, taken out and will form a compound where there is a double bond between this alpha and beta carbons, where there is, double bond between this alpha and beta carbons, okay. Now, this product, now suppose there is no phosphate, suppose for just one instance, you just follow my words, that is, there is no phosphate and there is OH. That means this is what? This is having in and this is having all, right? That's why this is what? This is nothing but, you have already read in your organic chemistry class, this is enol. This is enol, right? Now, the very important point you need to understand is this is phosphoenol pyruvate, right? You know what? How to draw phosphoenol pyruvate? It's very simple. Listen, this is how you draw your phosphoenol pyruvate, okay. Suppose this is your phosphate and this is your phosphoenol pyruvate. This is your phosphoenol pyruvate. This is your phosphoenol pyruvate, okay. Clear? Now, this is how you draw your phosphoenol pyruvate, okay. Now, a very important point you need to understand here is this, that the reaction which is actually, helping in the conversion of, the enzyme which is actually, helping in the conversion of 2-phosphoglycerate into phosphoenol pyruvate has a very funny name which is called enolase, okay. Why? It's very simple, because it is helping in the formation of enol, and ase means, enzyme, that's it. It is known by the name of enolase, okay. Clear? It is called enolase, okay. Clear? Now, this is the last step of glycolysis, and this last step again is what? Irreversible step. That means here is a control valve. Now, this phosphoenol pyruvate will be converted into pyruvate, okay. Now, listen, do you think pyruvate molecule have any, phosphate groups? No. That means one phosphate will come out and ADP will be converted into what? ATP. Here is your, second step where ATP is generated. This is your second step where ATP is generated. Now, important point here you need to understand is this, the enzyme which is actually helping in the conversion of phosphoenol pyruvate into pyruvate. Now, let us draw this step here again. Clear? Let us draw this step here again. Okay, so this is your phosphenol pyruvate. Okay, so this is your phosphenol pyruvate. Okay, now when this phosphenol pyruvate is converted, into pyruvate, the pyruvate actually looks like this. It's a keto acid. Okay, it's a keto acid having keto group, right? Now a very important point that means this electron is going here and this phosphate is going out, and what we are getting is ADP to ATP. Okay, no problem. But the enzyme which is actually acting here is called pyruvate kinase. Okay, it is called pyruvate kinase. Clear? It is known by the name of pyruvate kinase. Now a very important point here you need to understand is this, that that pyruvate kinase is also a what? Pyruvate kinase is also an allosteric enzyme. Clear? Pyruvate kinase is also an allosteric enzyme. Clear? Now pyruvate kinase is activated by, now listen with all your attention, pyruvate kinase is actually activated by fructose 1,6 bisphosphate. Shocking, right? This is the product of action of phosphofructo 1, right? Phosphofructose kinase 1, sorry. Okay, so pyruvate kinase actually gets its positive stimulation from fructose 1,6 bisphosphate. Why? Because suppose glucose has entered and glucose has started glycolysis, then after the conversion of fructose 6 phosphate into fructose 1,6 bisphosphate, this fructose 1,6 bisphosphate will actually tell pyruvate kinase, get ready for the action because we are coming. Clear? Clear? It is like that someone has broken the traffic rule, and then traffic police will actually call other police officers so that this particular person who has actually broken that particular rule can be caught in that next signal, right? It's like that. Okay, so that means whenever fructose 1,6 bisphosphate is formed, then you can be sure that this pyruvate kinase is actually getting upregulated. Okay, now and very important point here we need to understand is this, that how this pyruvate kinase is inhibited. Now for that we need an explanation like this. Okay, suppose this is your cell and here glucose has entered and glucose is converted into glucose 6 phosphate. I am not going into detail of every steps right now. Okay, and after many steps we have got what? Phosphoenol pyruvate, and we have got here what? Pyruvate, right? Now a very important, we are about to get the pyruvate here if pyruvate kinase works, right? If pyruvate kinase works here. Now the very important point here you need to understand is this, that if there is low glucose concentration in your blood, should glycolysis go on? Should glycolysis take place? What is your opinion? Obviously the answer should be no, because you need glucose, because your central nervous system is constantly using it. Therefore whenever blood glucose level is low or blood glucose level is down, you should not, your normal cells should not use glucose. It should be kept for your central nervous system cells, right? That is your brain and spinal cord. The most important thing here you need to understand is this: when glucose level is down in the blood, then glucagon activates, then glucagon is activated, and this glucagon actually interacts with this G protein coupled receptor, and this G protein coupled receptor is coupled to GS. Okay, it's coupled to GS. Okay, And due to this, what happens is, you should understand right now, what happens is alpha S, stimulates adenylyl cyclase, okay, stimulates adenylyl cyclase, and adenylyl cyclase converts ATP into cyclic AMP, okay, converts ATP into cyclic AMP, and cyclic AMP activates what? Cyclic AMP activates protein kinase A, right? And this protein kinase A, actually what it does is, protein kinase A actually phosphorylates pyruvate kinase. Phosphorylates pyruvate kinase, okay? Now listen with all your attention. Pyruvate kinase is one of those peculiar proteins which when phosphorylated will be inhibited. Clear? Which when phosphorylated will be inhibited. Like phosphofructokinase 2, right? Phosphofructokinase 2 has two domains, phosphofructokinase domain and phosphatase domain. Kinase domain is inhibited when it is phosphorylated. It is phosphorylated by what? Again, glucagon. That means due to protein kinase A, due to protein kinase A, now this pyruvate kinase is phosphorylated, right? And when it is phosphorylated, it is shut off. That means what? That means this is how glucagon controls glycolysis. Why Because when glucose levels are down, listen, when glucose levels are down, then glucagon comes out of the pancreas, like alpha cells of pancreas. Then what happens is this, we need to understand is, then glucagon binds with what? This G protein coupled receptor, and this G protein coupled receptor is coupled to GS, and from GS, after binding of glucagon, alpha S will come out, and alpha S will activate what? Adenylyl cyclase, and when activated, adenylyl cyclase will convert ATP into cyclic AMP, and this cyclic AMP actually activates what? Protein kinase A. Now protein kinase A now phosphorylates this, protein kinase A now phosphorylates this pyruvate kinase, and this pyruvate kinase is a peculiar enzyme which when phosphorylated becomes inactivated, and therefore no more glucose will be converted into pyruvate. Therefore that means what? That then and there that particular cell will stop utilizing glucose and blood glucose level will be up. Therefore during low glucose concentration in blood, whenever there is low glucose concentration in blood or during fasting stage, glucose will not be utilized by your normal cells, but it will be utilized by your brain and spinal cord. Clear? So this is the allosteric inhibition of pyruvate kinase. Okay. Now very important part is this. Now so we have converted successfully pyruvate, the last step. Now important point, in red blood cells, suppose in red blood cells, this is actually not the last step. In red blood cells or in cells which lack mitochondria or which doesn't have access to O2 rich blood, that means what? Your eyes, your many parts of the eyes do not have that sophistication, or those type of capillaries are missing there which can actually provide good quantity of blood, O2 rich blood. Clear? Therefore in those areas cells actually perform an extra step. Now listen, what cell does is, listen with all your attention, in your RBC also it is happening all the time. Suppose this is your what? Suppose this is your pyruvate, right? Now what happens is this pyruvate, now listen, this pyruvate is converted into lactate. Now what is lactate? It's very easy. Now listen, this is your lactate, okay? This is your lactate. What is lactate? Lactate is nothing but the hydrogenated form of this pyruvate. Clear? That means the reduced form of this pyruvate is lactate. Okay, now what will you do is, how can you convert pyruvate, into lactate? How can you convert it? By introducing 2H, right? By introducing 1H and 1H here, right? You can do it. How can you do this? Listen, by simply taking out H from NADH. Clear? So why cells are doing an extra step? Why some cells like RBC are doing one extra step, right? This is because of the fact that if this extra step is actually occurring in a cell, then the chance of forward reaction increases, and therefore glycolysis can occur smoothly in those cells. Clear? The chance of forward reaction actually is what? Increased. Therefore what? Therefore glycolysis can occur smoothly in those cells. Now listen with all your attention. A very important point you need to understand here is this, that this reaction is a readily reversible reaction. This reaction is a readily reversible reaction. First point you need to understand. It's a readily reversible reaction. It's very much reversible reaction. Clear? Now, okay. So this was actually about the whole of glycolysis. Okay. Now, in a short span of time, you can calculate. Okay. Now, you are telling about 10 minutes. Okay, we'll try that. Wait. In a short span of time, we will actually summarize whole of this chapter or glycolysis chapter. Okay, clear? Let me rub the board, then my time will start. Okay, don't count from now. Wait, I can take this challenge. Wait. Start. Let's have a quick recap. Okay, so this is the quick recap. Now listen. Glucose enters a cell. Glucose enters a cell by the help of GLUTs, right? Glucose enters a cell by the help of GLUTs. GLUTs are glucose transporters, special proteins which help in glucose uptake. Okay. Now, glucose is at first converted into glucose 6-phosphate, right? Now, here we need one ATP, right? And ATP is converted into ADP, and the enzyme is hexokinase. Now, there are many types of hexokinase. Hexokinase 1, 2, 3 and 4. Hexokinase 4 is actually known by the name of glucokinase, which is present especially in liver, kidney and beta cell of pancreas, right? Hexokinase 4, now listen, hexokinase 4 is actually present in what? Liver, oh my god, this is not liver, sorry, liver, pancreas, kidney, right? Beta cell of pancreas, okay? Now, this glucose 6-phosphate now is converted into, this is what? Irreversible, right? Glucose 6-phosphate is now converted into what? Converted into fructose 6-phosphate, right? This is what? Reversible reaction. This is what? Sorry. This is done by an enzyme known by the name of phosphohexose isomerase, right? Phosphohexose isomerase, right? Now, this fructose 6-phosphate is converted into what? The main step of glycolysis. This is the main step of glycolysis. That is, phosphate is converted into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, right? Fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Now, a very important point here we need to understand is this, that this is the main step of our glycolytic pathway, right? This is the main step. Why? Because there is a enzyme which is called phosphofructokinase 1, which actually is the main enzyme which helps in glycolysis, right? Now listen, phosphofructokinase 1 is actually, activated by what? Low levels of energy, that is AMP in our cell, but it is inhibited by high, energy level in our cell, that is ATP. High concentration of ATP actually inhibits phosphofructokinase 1. High concentration of AMP, actually excites, excites AMP. Okay. High concentration of AMP excites phosphofructokinase 1. Now, the most potent, activator of phosphofructokinase 1 is fructose 2,6-bisphosphate, which is produced from fructose 6-phosphate by phosphofructokinase 2, right? Clear? Now, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is then broken down into two, parts, that is dihydroxyacetone phosphate, right? Dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, right? Now listen, this dihydroxyacetone phosphate is again converted into, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and vice versa. And the enzyme in this part is aldolase. Why? Because you all know that glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate can be, condensed together by the help of aldol condensation reaction. Therefore, this aldolase enzyme comes into action here. Okay. Now, the conversion of dihydroxyacetone phosphate into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is done by an enzyme called triose phosphate isomerase. Clear? Triose phosphate isomerase, or simply put TIM. Okay, not TRIM or translocase inner membrane. Now, this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted now into what? Fast. It is converted into what? It is converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, right? It's converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Clear? Now you need another ATP, right? So again, ATP is converted into ADP. Why? Because there is another phosphate required here in the first position, right? Now the enzyme required here is what? Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, right? Now listen, in this reaction NAD plus is converted into NADH. Okay, why? Because glyceraldehyde is an aldehyde and bisphosphoglycerate is an acid radical. Therefore, it is the actual conversion of aldehyde into acid which is oxidative in nature. Therefore, hydrogen should be moved out. Therefore, this NAD plus is actually acting as a reducing equivalent and it is taking out the hydrogen. Now, what will happen is this: the first reaction, that is 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is converted into 3-phosphoglycerate. Okay, it's converted into 3-phosphoglycerate. Okay. Now, a very important point we need to understand right now is this, that we need to understand is this, that this here, here ADP in this step has been converted into ATP. This is the first step, okay, where ATP is produced. Now this 3-phosphoglycerate, okay, wait, this is reversible reaction, and the enzyme required here is what? Phosphoglycerate kinase, right? Phosphoglycerate kinase. Okay. Now this 3-phosphoglycerate is converted into 2-phosphoglycerate and this 2-phosphoglycerate. Now listen with all your attention. 3-phosphoglycerate is converted to 2-phosphoglycerate, right? Now the enzyme required here is mutase. Okay, phosphoglycerate mutase or mutase, simply mutase. Okay, all of these reactions are reversible. Now listen, this 2-phosphoglycerate is now converted into what? Phosphoenol pyruvate. Okay, is converted into phosphoenol pyruvate. Okay, now a very important point here we need to understand is this, that this is also what? Reversible reaction. Okay, and water should move out, okay, and the name of the enzyme is enolase because it is helping in the formation of enol. Okay, this here there is enol structure. Okay, now this phosphoenol pyruvate is converted into pyruvate, right? Is converted into pyruvate, right? And the enzyme is what? Pyruvate kinase. Okay, now what are the steps which actually control the, which are the control valves of glycolysis? Now the control valves of glycolysis is step 1, so this is step 2, this is step 3, this is step 4, this is step 5, this is step 6, this is step 7, this is step 8, this is 9, this is 10. Now listen, the control points, listen with all your attention, control points of glycolysis, if I tell you, are steps 1, 3, 10. Clear? That's it. Because only steps 1, 3 and 10 are actually irreversible. That's why they are the control valves of glycolysis first. And the most important point is this: energy calculation. Energy calculation. Okay, we need to do it fast. Energy calculation. Now listen, how many ATPs have been converted into ADPs? 1, okay, 2 ATP consumed. Okay, 2 ATPs have been consumed. How many ATPs we have got? We will get an ATP here. Okay, why? Because when this phosphoenol pyruvate is converted into pyruvate, this phosphate will move out and give ATP. Okay, now how many ATP we have got? 1, 2. This is the first reaction, this is the second reaction, right? So we will get how many ATPs? 2 ATPs produced, right? So we have got 0 gain of ATP, right? But in your books it is written 2 gains of ATP, right? They are stupid, right? You are stupid if you think that they are stupid. Now listen. Therefore, in glycolysis, the energy produced is equal to ATP consumed, which is 2 ATPs, right? Where step 1 and where we have utilized ATPs in step 1 and 6, right? Now ATP is produced in, suppose 2 ATP for 1 molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. A very important point you need to understand. 2 ATPs for each glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So we have calculated only 1. Now listen, 2 ATPs for each molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Steps are what? 7 and 10. Now for each glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecule we have got 2 ATPs. Now therefore for 2 glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecule, that is this, if we consider that this dihydroxyacetone phosphate will also be converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, then what we will get is 2 plus 2 ATPs, assuming that DHAP is also converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Clear? So the net gain of ATP, will be 4 minus 2, right? That is 2 ATPs. Clear? That's it. Net gain of ATP will be 2 ATPs. Am I clear to everyone? Okay. Now, number of NADH produced. Now, again, number of NADH produced 1. If there is no production of lactate, or sorry, lactate actually consumes NADH. So 1 NADH is actually produced. Clear? So the net energy balance of your glycolysis is 2 molecules of ATP and 1 molecule of NADH. Clear? So this was the quick review of our glycolytic pathway and the calculation part. Okay.